Hello my friends, this is Wake Angel 2001 coming at you with a review of Transformers Rise of the Beasts Studio Series Wheeljack. Okay, I'm going to get this out of the way at the beginning of the review so it's not something that we harp on for the rest of it. Wheeljack looks really different from his G1 counterpart, and he looks really different from the way he was depicted in the first Bumblebee movie. Let's put a picture of original Wheeljack right here. So you're thinking, if they made such an accurate Wheeljack for the first movie, why does he look so different now? Well, my friends, I have a theory that could perfectly play into the logic of the movie, but, it just would have been a dialogue-heavy scene to explain it. Okay, so my theory is that when Wheeljack arrived on Earth, he decided that Lamborghini vehicle mode was too conspicuous and he wouldn't be able to blend in very well, so he opted to update his appearance by giving himself a much more inconspicuous Volkswagen bus mode, which is a much more common sight in the streets at the time. And in so doing, he decided that he may as well also update the look of his robot mode as well. And since it was 1994, it would have been during the peak of the Family Matters series. And you cannot tell me that a guy like Wheeljack wouldn't identify with Steve Urkel. So it's like, hey, as long as I'm changing my appearance, I may as well make myself look like that really cool guy from that show I love. So yes, that is my headcanon, that Wheeljack saw Family Matters and decided that he wanted to look like Steve Urkel. So, he has the big square rim glasses and the suspenders, but we'll get more into that when we actually get him out of the packaging. So let's go ahead and do that. And here is Wheeljack in his robot mode, unfettered from the box, looking, well, so much like a robot Steve Urkel. I just can't stop harping on it. He comes, of course, with one of those backdrops. It's that little curved road from the chase scene where they were being chased by the tow truck guy, and RC dropped that silent F-bomb. If you know, you know. And well, he actually kind of looks a lot like the cheaper version of the figure you could get, the one that's in one of the multi-packs. But there are some more details on him. Part of me is wishing that I had at least inspected that one a little better so I could have more context. But let's get in and take a look. First of all, that is a very nicely sculpted Autobot sigil on his chest, but I wished it was picked out. That should be picked out in red so that it's more noticeable. Because the Autobot insignia is always picked out in red. It's weird for it not to be. And I do like how they actually hid the pins that are part of his shoulders construction in the middle of the headlight kibble, which actually adds a little bit of extra shine to there. And his eyes are painted baby blue behind those glasses. Speaking of which, yeah, look at that. Those cheekbones, those lips. This guy knew exactly what he was referencing. And look, the seatbelts make little suspenders that go over his little engine block belly. And he does cut a pretty clean robot mode. Just this one little piece of kibble back here that doesn't really do anything more to fold away. It's his windscreen. And the door wings on top, they have a swivel here and they hinge, but they swivel and hinge, and they kind of impact this part, so they can't get any more out of the way than they are now. So if you want to have him put his arm backwards, it's going back through his arm literally has to slot through the wheel hub in his own kibble in order for him to put his arms behind himself. And they're just kind of there. They're very close to the shoulders, and they kind of make you feel self-conscious because they're made out of translucent plastic, and I hate having to put a lot of force in translucent plastic. The rest of him, he has a, let's break down articulation, ball jointed head. So it swivels, it tilts expressively, it can look up and down. Shoulders have a ball joint that's in there, so it can move all around like this. And there's a hinge on the inside of the torso so that he can get his arm to go out. The ball does like do this, but there is an independent bicep swivel. See, that can get his arm to move. An elbow that goes 90 degrees. The hand is directly molded onto his forearm, so there's no wrist movement. He has a waist, however. That's cool. Ball jointed hips, but get pretty good range, unimpeded in both directions. Although when they go outwards, they only go out about that far, but you know, that's farther than I can get my leg to go out. He has a thigh swivel. He also has a swivel on his knee, and despite how bulky this looks, his knee can get a full 90-degree bend, so that's good. His foot can go forward a lot. It can go back until it goes into the kibble, and there is a hinge to allow for ankle rocker, and there is a bit of heel movement. I'm sure this is just to get it out of the way for transformation, but you know, it is there. So Wheeljack is decently posable. Yeah, he's a pretty decently posable little figure. Like, you're not going to expect too much acrobatics from the Team Science guy, especially when he has a Volkswagen mini bus van alt mode as you know, like, you know, maybe I would expect him to be a little bit more acrobatic if he was still a sports car, but he's not a sports car, so it's okay. Sorry, I'm just gonna trying to adjust the kibble to get him back into a neutral stance. He comes with one accessory. It is a gun made out of a smoky, translucent plastic. And he holds it. Yep. I mean, like, given the fact that he doesn't have any wrist swivels, a sword would look really weird in his hand. But, again, he's Wheeljack. Unless you're talking about the Prime version of Wheeljack, he's not really a sword guy anyway. Alright, so, yeah. I deemed this pretty good. Yeah, seriously, my love of Family Matters is probably reason why I so am ready to forgive such an egregious change to Wheeljack's robot mode for this movie. But you know what? They managed to hit me. I mean, seriously, like the Rise of the Beast movie really did a lot to appeal directly to me. Like, what with having the human characters nickname each other Sonic and Tails, making Wheeljack into Steve Urkel, and like, really, about the only thing that they did wrong was killing off Air-Razor without ever letting her have a chance to transform into her robot mode. Really, that's the only thing I didn't like about Rise of the Beasts. Okay, so let's get him into his vehicle mode so we can check out that sweet, sweet van. Wow, folks, I gotta say, that transformation was not fun at all. I feel like they did everything wrong with this guy in terms of how his transformation is supposed to work. There's a bunch of really thin panels that have a lot of force put on them as parts try to get past. There's pieces that do not have anywhere near the clearance they need to get past each other. Like, let me bring up the instructions so you can see what I'm talking about here. There's this point where you got to get the arms of the robot mode to come up over the top like this to close up the shell of the van in the middle. Let me tell you something. These parts, when they come out, they do not have space to get past the thighs. Like, in order to do this, like, you can't just slide, you can't slide this piece out and move it up. You can't, it doesn't just go up past the thigh, like, in a neat little thing. No, you have to, in order to get this to happen, I had to rotate the waist around so that there will be enough room for these panels to get past each other. And then, like, I had to force the waist to go back horizontal again, pushing against all kinds of plastic parts. And like, if this wasn't flexible plastic, like, it's not even that it's super flexible, it's just that it's the nature of action figure plastic. If it wasn't for the natural flexibility of the plastic, this thing would have torn itself apart. Like, they did not think about clearance for any of this. Like, the figure, no, the transformation was not very well thought out. The parts just do not work. Like, it is a very clumsy, very difficult transformation where it feels like you're going to break the figure at every turn. It is not a good transformation at all. It is, however, a cute little van. Look, from the front you have the Volkswagen thing, you have the headlight, you have the windshield. It says Reparación de TV Pablo. Like, I'm assuming that translates to TV repairs by Pablo or something like that. And he even has a unique way to mount his gun on his roof. Like, instead of using the 5mm peg as the attachment point, there are these little slots on the side that go into this thing on the top, and that is how you mount his gun. It's unique. I gotta say, it's impressive, and I feel like these panels on the bottom, they do not want, like, the wheels don't want to all touch the ground at the same time. I feel like something down there is scraping the ground, and I do not like it. I have everything compressed as much as I can. So it looks good. It does not roll well, despite the fact that at least a couple of the wheels are pinned. Like, that is definitely a pin disc wheel. Pins are awesome. Although this wheel in the front, like I'm literally turning this wheel. Like, this wheel does not want to spin at all. This wheel I'm getting a decent spin out of. This one feels like it's been wedged into place. So yeah, not a very good roller. Actually, now that I look at it, it does have clearance. It is clearing. It's just that because this wheel doesn't want to turn, it makes it feel like something is scraping, because a wheel is scraping. But yeah. Also, I can't help but feel like this is undersized, because, like, in the movie, RC was able to sit inside of this thing in her robot mode, like, and still had enough room that a missile could pass through him while she cries out her F-bomb. As it passes by her head by mere inches. But yeah, like, can't really, maybe it's because of the big wheel kibble. If that wasn't there, maybe you could see this RC sitting in the back of the van, but nah, I feel like he's undersized. Like, maybe if his van mode was a little bit bigger, there would have been enough internal clearance for his parts, so the pieces wouldn't have clipped into each other so much. So, yeah, the van mode doesn't look bad, but it does feel undersized, and that transformation is just awful. Like, I really hate to give such a bad verdict on like, Transformers have three aspects. They are supposed to be a vehicle, an action figure, and a puzzle. This thing does a pretty good job of being a vehicle. That's a very nice little vehicle. And he does a good job of being a robot too. I really like his robot mode. But he is a terrible puzzle. Like, the solution to this puzzle is absolutely not intuitive. Like, without the instructions, I never would have been able to do it, because I can't believe that there are so many places in the intended transformation where parts just kind of clip into each other. It's like they designed this thing to work in some kind of theoretical alternate reality where things can just phase through one another. So, yeah, not a fun transformation at all. Let's get him back into robot mode so we can end this. Okay, so now that I have him back in robot mode, I gotta say the transition from vehicle mode to robot mode was a lot easier than the other way around, although I did pop one of these panels right off. I feel like they knew that there would be clipping issues because they're actually held on with just a couple of little pegs back there, so that if too much pressure goes on them, they'll just slip off their pegs and pop off rather than snap, which is what would likely happen since this is translucent plastic. So, like, they literally built in an accommodation so that the toy will fall apart in a way that can easily be put back together rather than simply break. I don't know if that's a credit. Like, is that a good thing? Like, congratulations, your toy won't break itself because of how poorly engineered its transformation is. But yeah, like I said, the robot mode does look good. Although, given how plain the deco is, I'm not sure it was really worth getting the Studio Series version. Maybe I would have been just as satisfied if I got one of the one of the more basic deluxes of this toy instead. Like, it probably would have had a less complicated transformation, and the robot mode probably would have looked nearly as good as this. And with a less complicated transformation, it probably wouldn't have been it probably would have been a more fun experience getting into its vehicle mode. And on top of that, it's Wheeljack. He's not the most acrobatic character, so it's not like there's anything afforded by super articulation of the studio series. Besides, like even regular Transformers usually have pretty fine articulation unless they have some kind of gimmick tied to them. So yeah, like Wheeljack is a nice figure. Don't get me wrong. He is a nice figure, but he's not the best Transformer. All things being equal, you might be just as satisfied getting a cheaper version of the character. That's my overall judgment. I do like this robot mode. He will prominently be displayed in this robot mode, and I'm probably never going to transform him again. I'm certainly not going to do it for fun. But, you know, there we go. Final note, Hasbro, if you really wanted people to get this figure over any of the cheaper deluxes, you really should have gone a little bit harder on the paint apps. You could have picked out these headlights on his thighs, you could have painted his Autobot sigil in, these little lights on his shoulders, you could have painted those in too. There's a lot of missed opportunity in your paint job here to make him look a little bit more, you know, like high-end. Like, I don't know, I know the character by design is relatively plain looking, but come on, there had to be some more you could have done for this guy. Yeah, there really does. Oh, and it's interesting to note, in the show model, he has the VW symbol in the middle of his chest, and the Autobot sigil is on the helmet. On the toy, there is no VW symbol on his chest because it's an Autobot sigil, and his helmet doesn't, like, it has something there vaguely shaped like an Autobot sigil, but there is no sigil printed in there. It's just like the outline of the sigil, and that's it. Still, does a pretty good job of being a Steve Urkel robot, and I will give him credit for that. Alright, Wake Angel 2001 signing off.